That's recording. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming along today and supporting this event. This event, it's kind of a launch for the exhibition, which I hope you've seen on the wall, of artworks, Riso prints that are taken from fanzine and alternative publications that have been produced in the Southend area over the last 50 years or so. It's also a launch for the You Better Hear podcast. You should have on your table a little flyer that looks sort of like that. If you scan the QR code, it won't take you to a dodgy scam site, honest. It will take you to the podcast, which you can listen to at your leisure. We've also got a Zine stall here, so if anybody has brought anything they want to sell, please feel free to add to the table. And we're going to kick off with a bit of a panel discussion themed around the alternative and radical publications and fanzines of Southend-on-Sea. So what I'll do, I'll just kind of read through a little piece here that is taken from my book, which is on the table there, Southend-on-Sea, and then we'll hand over to the panel. Okay. So mention Southend-on-Sea in casual conversation to anybody that doesn't live here, and it's not unlikely that the response will be a condescending snigger about Essex girls, white van man, or reality TV show The Only Way is Essex. But there's always been more to Southend than these often grotesque stereotypes. Close enough to the heart of London to get there in under an hour on the sea-to-sea line, Southend is also far enough away to have evolved its own distinctive cultural heritage and identity. The story of that other Southend is told through the fanzines, people's papers and community magazines made in the town over the last 50 years or so, utilising typewriters, scissors, glue and electroset, and newly emerging word processing and desktop publishing technology. These publications were independent, small circulation and self-produced, either by enthusiastic individuals or small collectives and community groups, and reproduced using whatever resources were to hand. Distector duplicators, stencils, screen printers, offset litho Riso presses, high street copy shops, or the office Xerox machine when the boss wasn't looking. They were often ramshackle, messy, irreverent and opinionated, but most importantly they were hands-on and democratic, unmediated by any external editorial constraints. By definition, these publications were of the moment, spreading the word about what was happening there and then. Given away free or sold for a few pence to cover production costs, they were distributed at gigs, in the street, or in pubs, cafes, record shops, and anywhere else that would take a few copies. They were a transient medium, at the time intended to be read and then discarded. Today, they provide not only snapshots of Southend's youth and other subcultures over the last 5 decades, but also a record of participants' direct experiences of a history from below, unlikely to be documented in the minutes of the Southend Borough Council meetings or the archives of the Evening Echo newspaper. In 2022, I published Southend-on-Sea, a book documenting the alternative history of the city between 1971 and 2021, as told through these publications and the words of the people that produced them. During my research, I gathered a wealth of material, including artefacts, oral histories and interviews, several of which I wasn't able to use for the book, but which opened up many portals into an otherwise lost or undocumented non-official other history of this city. Now is the time to tell these stories. The You Better Hear podcast is an expansion of the territory initially opened up by the book project, capturing, amplifying and celebrating these hidden voices. The places, faces, spaces and traces, now often forgotten. So I've got a little panel here representing some different eras of alternative publishing in Southend. We have Sophia Rawlinson, who produced Bang magazine. No, sorry, Noisy and Bang. Noisy and Bang. Noisy, fanzine. We have Ron, who was involved with Precinct Press. We have Adrian, who was involved with Bang, not Noisy. And Jemma, who has produced iJunk. So yeah, I'm going to kind of open things up a little bit by maybe getting each of our participants in turn to introduce themselves. So I'll start with you, Sophia. Okay, sorry, I did the question there. So briefly, what I'd like you to do, introduce yourself, the publication you're involved with, in just a few words, like for example, what year you produced it, maybe how it was produced, were you part of a collective or something, and then just pass on to the next person, if that's okay. So, over to you.
Thank you very much. Hello, my name is Sophia. I created a fanzine called Noisy. The first issue came out in 2005, the last issue came out in 2009. It focused on the music scene in Southend and the Essex area in general. It was mostly put together by myself with contributions from various friends, and it had interviews with local bands, music reviews, either live reviews and demo reviews, and anything else music related. We had someone, a guitar luthier, who used to write articles about making guitars. We had local photographers who would contribute photographs, and all sorts of things that are going on there. But the last issue was 2009. There is a teeny tiny issue which I finished photocopying yesterday, which is 50p if anybody wants to splurge out on it, which is a very, very small extended essay about basically all the demo contributions I was given that I never reviewed, and they remained under my bed in a box for 15 years. So if you want to read about what happened, then knock yourself out. I'm a lunatic.
That's me. I'm Ron Bates, involved with Precinct Press. Vaguely, I think it was about 1974-5. We only did 3 publications. It came from, a feeling of living in a town that was quite censorious, typical seaside town, very middle class. We didn't have any free theatre. Cinema was checked out by one of the councillors, who was a bit like Mary Whitehouse.
So, banned certain things.
Bands, so it was a kind of, there's a feeling of oppression, but also there was an undercurrent that had come from the Beat generation, CND. We had a really good art school at one point that had wild sort of balls, and that was a real ferment. There was a students' union where, Pizza Express is now. There was a lot of interaction. People could meet in places, not compromised. And then I think the things that were going on, we come back after being at universities and, meeting up with the ordinary folk, and there just seemed we needed to connect, find out what gigs were going on. Women's Refuge was beginning, all sorts of stuff. We had a food cooperative, which we go up to community supplies, bring gear down and distribute it at cost, and if we made anything, it went into Precinct Press. We had our own sort of printmaker, Gestetner. One guy's bedroom was basically a print room. Another room was where all the food cooperative stuff was stored. And I think we saw it as a community thing to communicate about what's going on, because we were all sort of like siloed into different pubs, you know, in trends, the Peterboat, the Ship, the Alex, I don't know. It went on all around, but they were places where you could, I think we were also on the periphery of sort of the drugs, you know, because it was the 60s and 70s, so there was, freedom for, you know, being able to smoke your dope. And it was very, very good stuff then, not like this genetically modified stuff that causes psychosis and things like that. And the other extraordinary thing here was the, on the seafront there were a blues and a jazz club, and someone took it over. I'm going on too long. But it was the first bust for acid in the country. I'm not an advocate for drugs, but use them responsibly.
Okay, I'm Adrian Green. I was part of the Bang collective, the collective that introduced Bang. We came chronologically just after Ron's Precinct Press. Late 70s, Bang was produced, 6 issues from about 78 to early 80s. And we started off, just to put this in chronological context, the first home PC that people had was the Amstrad 825, which didn't come out until 1983 or 1984. So we were producing things on home typewriters, portable typewriters, cutting stencils, which were then run off with the Gestetner type rotary printer, and produced something like an A4 magazine. There's a beautiful yellow print of it on the wall there, one of the second issue. But we produced this and eventually went to using offset litho and paying for it to be printed, and we were able to produce it at a smaller level. PCs didn't come in until about late 80s, home PCs. So the internet wasn't a thing until many moons after this. So we were all interested in the development of technology such as, let's have an electric typewriter where we can cut a stencil with even typeface. Bang magazine, I was involved in editing the poetry side of Bang magazine, but we tried to cover all of the arts in Southend at that stage. We did at one stage propose an art centre, and we had the idea that it might be an idea to use one of the buildings in the middle of a park in Southend as an art centre. Nothing came of it. The council didn't think that was a very good idea at all, until several generations later. But Bang itself was produced. We had reviews, we had poems from local poets, but we also invited other poets in from the flourishing small press work nationwide to come, and therefore they could compare our own work and our own local work, and it stood up very well against what was coming in from outside as well. It eventually folded through lack of funding and all the rest of it, the usual things, and people grew up and moved away from the area and so on and so forth. Various members of people, I'm in touch with a couple of them who now live in Suffolk. Others we've lost touch with altogether, others have passed on. But Bang is there, so I've got a few copies here of samples. Unfortunately none for sale at the moment, but we used to sort of sell it for about 20p. And covered, as I say, everything that was going on in the arts in Southend. That's enough from me, I think, and I'll pass you on to Jemma.
Cool, okay. I'm Jemma. I was a facilitator of iJunk, which came along, I think, probably about 2 years ago, and went on pretty solidly for a year, somewhere between a year and a half to 2 years. Kind of just trailed off, but it's not completely dead, so it might come back at some point. But yeah, so that essentially started because I went and visited another town that, city I was about to say, went up to Leeds and stayed there and saw that they just had a really good creative scene, like really good and cultural, loads going on, loads of zines, loads of different nights for different types of creative work, and I just felt like Southend has that, but I couldn't see this scene that has existed in the past just sort of fizzled out a little bit. So not completely dead, I'm sure, but I just sort of came back and had an urge to try and get together some of the creative people that I know, because there's just so many of you out there. So it's just like, okay, let's put it all in a printed zine and get that going. So it's good fun.
Thank you. Maybe just to sort of like fill in the story of my own kind of thing with this, in a way. I used to do a fanzine, I think it started in late 1979 to the early 1980. It ran for about 4 years, called New Crimes, which was very much kind of a punk fanzine, very much inspired by that. But it kind of, as the stories were emerging there, it kind of made me, there's actually kind of a lineage there. There's a thread, I think, that runs from Precinct Press that Ron talked about through Bang and onwards. And in fact, when Bang, as Adrian mentioned, Bang kind of upgraded their kind of print from using stencil duplicator to offset litho. And I actually bought the duplicator that they kind of no longer need for 20 quid. 20 quid, a lot of money in those days. 20 quid to sort of use that, to buy that duplicator. So it just kind of made, and then I think that in the end got sold on to someone else that was doing another puppet. So it's like, you'll see the same names, the same kind of faces, and throughout the story, people kind of weave in and out of this story a little bit, I think. What I want to do maybe is ask each participant kind of a specific question. I think Ron's already kind of answered most of it already.
Sorry.
That's okay. So my question to Ron was, like, Precinct Press came out of the counterculture era. Is that kind of, to put it in context, I suppose it was sort of like the early to mid-70s, so we're kind of past the hippie era, if you like. Yeah. But it kind of predated punk, I suppose, which is obviously what's associated with fanzines and a lot of those kind of alternative publications. And I kind of remember that time to some degree, but I probably was a little bit young to be directly involved in it. But it did seem like there was a lot going on at that time. Ron mentioned things like there was a food cooperative, there was a claimants union, there was alternative and street theatre, there was kind of women's aid was being set up at that time. I know, Ron, you kind of answered it already a little bit, but what was it like in Southend at that time in terms of, the counterculture, if you like, that sort of thing?
I don't know, I was too stoned. No. I think Southend has always been a really vibrant place. I mean, musically, right from the beat era with the studio that was open all night, and there was blues and jazz. All sorts of amazing people came. The pub scenes. I mean, didn't go round all of those, but it was very, very vibrant. And I've lost the thread of what I'm saying, really. But anyway,
it's the drugs.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a very vibrant place, and you just felt that you needed to make these connections, and it was really youthful. It was young people, and you were trying to harness a positive sort of a response to this kind of oppressive, very grey kind of feeling of our country at that time. You know, it was, we were trying to change the world, let's be honest. You know, that was part of it. And certainly sort of inspired by the anarchists and do it, you know, actually DIY. I mean, I can remember being inspired by the Whole Earth catalogue, and which covered everything, and so we were trying to be self-sufficient and learn skills, all sorts of things, and help out, sort of like, you know, break into the house that the Women's Refuge squatted, because the door was open miraculously. So that kind of facilitation was going on as well, you know. Anyway, I'm too old. Oh God, it was a great time, and I think there are some people here who were around then.
And Adrian, Bang described itself as Southend's arts mag, and from reading some of the content, it feels like there are similar issues around the arts that we see today. For example, debates and arguments about who gets funding and who doesn't. And there was the founding of the Southend Action Group for the Arts, I believe you were involved with. What were kind of the official, for example, Southend Council, and unofficial attitudes to the arts back then? And do you see any parallels between then and now? Is there anything new under the sun?
Oh, good question. Lots of parallels. Saga, Southend Action Group for the Arts, sort of predated Bang. Those of us who were involved in Saga, who were also interested in literature and publishing and creative writing, really got together to, you know, introduce Bang. Southend Action Group for the Arts was campaigning for an arts centre in Southend. And you know, we had this vision that an arts centre would be a cultural facility that would enable people to have not only facilities to create, etc., but also facilities to hang out and communicate with each other, etc. We envisaged a sort of arts club, bars and things like that. That we had a council who were largely conservative, with a big and a small C. We've still got a council that is conservative with a small c, whatever party is involved. But the difference now is that largely the council pays lip service to creativity and has actually enabled a number of sort of groups like the Southend Creatives, etc., to get together, and there are some exciting new initiatives coming up, which are, as I say, the council is providing lip service to this. In those days, the council didn't even provide lip service to this sort of development. We had to fight the council to institute the Southend Arts Council. Eventually that sort of developed into supporting only what they called the amateur arts, and no one could really define where the difference between amateur and professional arts is. But as I say, we had to fight for that. And but nowadays the council are doing this. They've put money into metal, as no number of you are involved in or have been involved in. We still haven't got the sort of arts centre that is open all the time to people interested in the arts, etc. Although the Chalkhall Hall at Metal is available to for certain groups and for certain activities. Therefore, we're meeting in places like this instead of at an arts centre. You know, why is that? Because the council have gone halfway to this. Look at some other towns such as Bridport, who have a thriving arts centre. Southend is very different as far as its attitude to the arts is concerned, although it also shares a coastal location. So there are differences, and we have progressed to a certain extent, but we're not there yet. We don't have a Southend Arts Centre as such.
Thanks for that, Adrian. And Sophia, it's really great to see you published a new issue of Noisy after 16 years. And by sheer coincidence, it's published today.
I know.
And we have copies on the table. So my kind of question to you, I guess we've heard from you, kind of doing this slightly chronological order. So we've moved from like kind of the mid-70s, sorry, mid-1970s through to sort of early 80s, and now moving towards kind of like, you know, a little bit kind of 2000, you know, the 2000s. So you published the last Noisy back in 2009, I believe, and again there are copies with a CD that accompany it, representing the music scene of that time. But yeah, I want to ask you really, we heard a little bit about the scene in the 70s and 80s there. How does the music scene, from when you were publishing Noisy, how does that feel in the music scene today? Any parallels, comments? Better, worse?
Well, thank you. Well, I don't think I'm that qualified to say, because when you move away from something in terms of interest, you don't necessarily know. So I've not got my foot, to use a phrase, ear to the ground in the same way as I did in 2009. So I can't make a real educated statement. But I'm sure that you got Chinnery's, you got whatever Club Riga is calling itself now, and I'm showing my age by saying what that's got, Pickle or venue or whatever it is. There's still plenty of places for gigs. Obviously we're going to have music in an hour or so with plenty of people here who were sending me music back then, such as Gary and his new band Angry, which so yeah, so there's plenty going on, and you know, you get older, you don't, you know, there are plenty of young people, you know, probably populating Chinnery's every week with you know, lots of new music. I know I don't sound very excited, but honestly, it's still exciting. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, we had in any issue of Noise, we probably had about 20-30 gig reviews or something, which would cover a 6-month period, and probably the same amount in terms of like independent music submissions that were sent to us, which was either something put out on an independent label or something, you know, a demo that was self-published, for want of a better word, and that covered all of Essex and sort of the borders, as it were. So there was a heck of a lot going on. You know, when you think about it, that amount of material that is covered it's quite astounding really for one county. So and we didn't cover everything. I'm sure there's more that we didn't know about or didn't feature. So
Denji.
yeah. So I don't know. Are there any questions needed from that, or have I?
I'll now part.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. And so we've gone through this kind of thread of time, if you like, from, you know, the last 5 or 6 decades. So the last person I'm going to speak to or ask a question to is Jemma of iChunk. And iChunk is, I know you're on hiatus at the moment, but you're kind of like continuing the zine tradition. How do you see the relevance of physical zines in an era of social media, instant communication? You've got things like TikTok, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. Is there still, you know, what's the relevance?
Good question, because I think everyone does have all kinds of social media on their phone, which they just are, you know, kind of glued to at different times of the day or the week or whatever. So it is all there. But for me, I think I was trying to make a conscious effort to follow certain people locally that I knew were putting out art or bands that would be gigging, but to always be on at the right time to get that information on the app. Sometimes you miss it, or sometimes you don't even know that they're there to follow, and you would have gone if you knew about it, or just trying to sift through and find the latest bit of art that they've done or whatever. It was enjoyable to do that and to try and actively follow them, but it was just getting to be a pain. And so I think I thought, wouldn't it be cool if it was all there?
Curated.
Curated, like printed. You can, if you like something, you can like rip it out and stick it on your wall and like look at it every day. And I used to do that like growing up, collecting like bits of just graphics that you like the look of, and that's not a thing anymore. It's like it's all digital. Once it's gone, it's gone. You've got to dig in and try and find it. So I think it is relevant, and it should be to help people connect with the art that they like a little bit more. They can see it all day, everywhere. But also, like, not even the art. When you're saying about the food banks and the stuff happening locally, there's important work going on that I think I didn't even know was happening until I started trying to put this together, and then you realise there's loads of community work that should be getting like way more attention. So that should go in there as well, and like just kind of spread the word about all the things that you think are important locally, and it just ended up as that kind of format, which makes sense. Yeah, it's good. Thanks.
Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So we've got kind of hopefully got a little bit of a kind of thread there, and a historical thread. And I think there's a lot of themes coming out of that. It's about community connection. It's about that kind of other voice that's away from maybe the official voice sometimes. And for me, there's still something about physical media. Picking up an issue of I Don't, for example, you kind of flick through that, and you'll see people's art in there you might not otherwise see, and there's no little algorithm going, don't look at that, look at this instead. You're going through the pages, and it's just another means of expression. I think that's maybe the importance of zines and that kind of thread of radical and alternative publications. I wonder if maybe anyone got any kind of questions to anybody on the group.
Hello.
Hello.
What are you planning to do for future podcast interviews? Who's next?
Who's next?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Actually, the first podcast is, as I said, there's a little flyer with a little QR code on it where you can check out the first edition, which is kind of a recap. I put it together, compiled it from interviews that I collected up for my book. My book is on sale on the table. Anyone who hasn't got one yet, it's there. Oh, Sophia, could you just hold it up? Let's do a bit of marketing. So I compiled the first edition from interviews that were already, but the second one is I'm actually working on editing the second one at the moment, and the title is The Bedroom Scene, which is not what you think. It's kind of looking at kind of some of the bands, the DIY ethic, kind of the post-punk, the way we used to put bands together kind of in our bedrooms and stuff like that, and the music scene from around that time. So that's the second one, which I'm currently working on editing, which brings to mention Angry, who are going to be performing shortly, and there's an interview with Angry on that podcast. Future ones, I don't know, I'm still putting, bouncing ideas around at the moment. There's all kind of aspects of kind of the alternative, if you like, history of Southend that's kind of things that maybe, you know, the more marginalised aspects of Southend's culture, I guess. So there's going to be quite a few, you know, around the arts, the LGBTQ kind of scene in the town and the history of that. Got Trevor here, Trevor Taylor here. I'm hoping to maybe catch Trevor to talk about, you know, some of the free improv scene in Southend, free improvised music, and kind of some of the radical music that's happened in the town. All sorts of ideas. So, yeah, watch this space. Any other questions?
Quick one for Jemma. You spoke a lot about the relevance of zines now and DIY media. Do you share my optimism that most of us on the underground scene are massively frustrated with social media, control of social media, targeted advertising? Do you share my optimism that we're going to see a lot more DIY things?
God, I hope so. Definitely. Also, like, I think just opening the door again with the urgent thing, I didn't really expect it, but it did kind of spark some stuff. People kind of went and created a whole load of different things. There's some from RJ down there. You've got your zines on the table. It did something. And the more the scene becomes established again, and people feel comfortable that there is a scene happening, then it's like, okay, I can lean into that, I'll make something.
I agree, I'm so glad you're doing it, and with all of you guys, what you've done in the past as well. But I think we need community more than anything else, and that's going to come from those means.
Well said.
Oh, cheers, Steve. Thank you. Any others? Any more questions?
Hello.
Hello,
I
Reece.
hope you can hear me from here. So,
Speak up, Reece.
I am a bit quiet sometimes, sorry. Just a follow-on from what T was saying, like, it's a massive... I thank all of you for someone who didn't really know what they wanted, how they were going to get stuff out creatively, especially Jemma, and especially you, Graham, for just kind of almost bringing to light the zine, because as someone who had no clue at all about it, it's a really amazing thing to learn about. It's like discovering fire. So from that, and you briefly touched on it, with the constant, have we got a young, no, we're in a pub, with the constant barrage of shit that we get from social media all the time, do you think that stuff like this, these sort of small zines, are going to effectively bring like a revival to the local kind of creative art scene in a new way by taking the old spin on things?
Anybody want to field that one?
I would say I don't know.
Not all at once though, please.
That's a very good question. I mean, you always produce these things with the sort of belief and faith that it will make a difference. Whether it does or not depends on how people receive it. So you've got to do a lot of work to convince the people who make decisions in the city, and convince them that there is a scene that is worth shouting about, and B, that they want to spend some money encouraging it. Now, there are ways in which, for instance, the council could help some of the underground, the community issues. They could help by publicity. They could, which wouldn't necessarily cost them a lot of money, wouldn't show up in any of their accounts, budgets, or anything like that. There are ways of doing that. One of the things that we're not very good at in Southend is letting people know. Okay, the Visit Southend website exists. Someone from the council will tell us that. It's not a great site.
We almost need those big billboards.
Yeah.
We've got about 4, I think, of the actual old paste up billboard things.
Yeah, there is.
I think there were more.
There is that. That's one aspect. But the other is the informal word of mouth cultural things, that the sort of communication you get by gathering in the same club, the same pub. We had this to a certain extent in the railway. People used to go to the railway people to a certain extent come to a place like this and they meet people who are active in other aspects of the arts and culture, and you get to know what is going on elsewhere. If they had an art centre, they would have this because people would hang out in the bar, they would spend their time there, and they would meet other people doing other things, working in other media. And that will be very important because it's an informal thing and it's something that you don't set out to do, but it just happens. But you need the infrastructure there to make it happen.
Can I
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. No. It's just a thought that it seems like it's. I mean, one of the things of Precinct Press was to try and connect people, and I think the physical. This is physical. You're in control of it, and you access it. I mean, I'm Neanderthal in terms of tech, but I think the other thing that you find is that historically, it's almost like these scenes are all a patchwork. It's a bit like your concept of the patchwork orchard, patchwork farming, and it's like patchwork counterculture. So you need that connectivity, and you need a medium whereby that is tangible and that people can feed into and out of. And in a way, this is simple. It's almost mechanistic compared to the other media. Sorry.
I think also that was sort of the technology that we had at the time. I mean, when I was doing the fanzine, you had a lot of people had MySpace pages, and I couldn't have done the fanzine without the internet and connecting with people that way. But obviously, the medium, as it were, was. So it's dying, but so to answer your question, I really don't know if there will be a turnaround where people decide to go into self-publishing and physically publish stuff, because everybody's publishing online or TikTok, whatever. Nothing wrong with that. It's just the next phase, isn't it? So I don't know whether there'll be a return to print. I mean, during Graham's last discussion that we had last year, that I mentioned the environmental impact as well. Obviously, there's a level of print and the environmental thought. Maybe people, I don't know.
I think tech gets a lot of.
Yeah.
There's issues around AI and tech and sustainability, but balance.
Yeah. So I'll be interested to see what happens in 5 years. You never know. We might have loads of stuff. The bookshop across the road might decide to stock some independent publications. You never know. Don't get rid of them.
People are using other publications now. Places like Amazon self-publishing, Lulu publishing short-run press stuff. People are using Substack and things like that for publishing their own work as well. So lots of things going on tech-wise. Of course, what you need to sort of consider also tech-wise is that for every online publication, somewhere there's a server churning out loads of energy and using up lots of energy, and it is not without any environmental impact.
And I think another thing I'd like to add to that, the benefit of the physical publication. I don't know if people remember there was a publication a few years back called The Heckler that was being distributed. You hear it in the railway, and there was a couple of guys that did that, Dave A and someone else. But when I interviewed them for my book, Dave made the point that, to that sort of question around kind of social media and media that is kind of controlled by kind of Meta or Google, or whoever's controlling this stuff, it sounded a bit kind of doom-watchy 5 years ago when he said this, that, it's so easy for that stuff to just become like the mouthpiece of, and we've seen Twitter turning into basically a sewer. And basically we saw, with the inaugural, I'm not going to get political here and not about people's political.
Why not?
But
Go for it.
with the inauguration of Trump, we immediately saw all those people just throwing in their hat, Meta and Zuckerberg and that just threw in their hat, yeah, we're behind you, and which, yeah, so there is some, what sounded like kind of, come on Dave, this is all a bit, this is all a bit Black Mirror. It's like, we're actually seeing that unfolding now, whereas this stuff, we have control over it, I guess, there's autonomy there that we have control over. Yeah, does that answer your question? Did we between us answer your question?
There is a future. There is a future. It's print. What was the question?
Any other questions?
Doesn't matter.
James?
I was just thinking, following on from that, when you talk about the kind of social media online stuff versus print, I mean, there's both production, people can produce stuff online, they can produce it in print, but then there's the curation, what gets seen. And what's really valuable here is hearing like individuals in the room whose choices, like, I think this is good, I think this is worth talking about, this is worth seeing. And that thing you're talking about there, the algorithmic control of things like massive corporates, it's like although an individual can submit their productions into this maelstrom, they've got no control over the curation of it. And I think what's exciting is to kind of hear about that side of it. It's not a question. More of a statement.
I totally agree with you. I hate social media.
Speak up. Stand up.
I hate social media now. I can't relate to it. I don't want anything to do with it. But I feel like I still have to have this. I've got this love making degree. I've got to use it. But people forget having a physical flyer, for example, playing gigs. It's so important. Just like when I'm out and about, luckily, like if I'm putting gigs on, I'm quite sociable. So I'm always giving people things. And people forget how important that is. Because you've got so used to this shit on the internet but you're only seeing the events they want you to see. It's bullshit. So we need more and more of this. Totally.
Thanks, T. Anybody like to respond to those two? Anyone like to respond to James and T?
I could say. I suppose, like in terms of curation, for iJunk, it was very much like, please send something in. It's gonna get printed. Like, it was trying to encourage people to email me their stuff, and there were some issues that were pretty fat and chunky, and there were other issues that were half the size. So it wasn't, for iJunk in particular, it wasn't a case of having like a message to follow in the same way that some zines have like a message that they're trying to get out. It was more like a showcase for like local art and writing, poetry, things like that. So yeah, I found it tricky to encourage that in response and kind of generate the pieces to go in there at times. And I think I found really it would depended on the time of year, the sort of feeling, the temperature, like socially, what if people would want to respond. So like winter months, no one's really making new art, they're all hibernating away. But like then summer would be quite busy. So yeah, so I don't know that I really had much experience of curating a really like a piece like maybe what you guys would have had with where you have a message that you're trying to come across. So yeah, mine was a bit more everything goes, which worked for me because I don't know how to curate. But yeah, that's quite interesting.
Anyone else?
No, I was going to say, well, okay, in terms of curating, like you said, it was it was pretty much a reflection of what was going on. It wasn't necessarily, I mean, obviously certain things got more focus on others, but yeah, it wasn't necessarily, it was just here's a load of stuff happening, check it out, if you like it, fine, if you don't, we'll go turn the next page because there might be something on there. So it's more like it needs to be curated so that somebody can, it's more, it's a reflection of the times, but it's curated because it's somewhere somebody can go and say, oh yeah, this is happening in this geographical area.
Yeah, I suppose that's
the
that makes
Anyone? Gary?
More of an observation, probably more than anything. I think if you've got physical copy of something, I think you feel more of an emotional connection to it. I think most of the people around here are of an age where we went out and bought a record, we sat down, put it on, poured over the sleeve, and you just, there is that just connection, which I think a lot of youngsters today probably miss that. And it would be lovely to think if we could get some old arts publication or artifact something to youngsters and see if they have that same connection. But they're driven by social media these days, so I don't know how receptive they would be. But it'd be interesting to see if they did have that, could have that potential to have that same emotional connection.
It's time as well, isn't it? It's like, it's when you pick up a zine, you are making time to sit and like have a cup of tea and like read through it and kind of enjoy each page. But with social media, you're just flicking through everything. Oh, I've got 5 minutes now, just stare at my phone. Like, it's not the same kind of interaction with the media that that kind of brings you like a bit of chill time and all the rest of it. It's quite good.
You move on so quickly
Yeah,
to the next thing.
and then you forget.
I've got,
but with the product, you come back to it. You see something, I'll come back to that, and there it is.
just, yeah, to kind of follow that up, Gary, with my new crimes that I did back in the, I'd say the early 1980s, I remember a particular incident. I think we've got Mickey in the room, Michael Baxter, who runs the are you still here, Penguin? Mickey runs a website called Kill Your Pet Puppy, which was never meant literally, but I hope. But he's archived lots of, kind of like music from that era, punk music, anarcho-punk music, a lot of that stuff, a lot of stuff around zines. And he posted up a few years ago a kind of punk record that came, an Italian punk record that I remember being sent to review back in 1980, and it kind of made me reflect on the process, because somehow these Italian punks had heard about my fanzine, and they'd sent me their record, which probably took 2 or 3 weeks in the post to get to me. I played the record, probably took me a while to kind of type up a review of it, published the fanzine, which probably another kind of month or something like that, sent them out to people, so there was another kind of time delay there. People would have heard that, read that review, thought that sounds interesting. They would have gone to their post office and bought a thing that we used to call an international monetary order, way before PayPal or anything like that. So you had to fill in this little form to order things from abroad. Letters used to take, I'd say, about 2 or 3 weeks to get to. So you've got that time. So you've probably got this 2 or 3 month kind of time lag between hearing about this record and actually them sending it to you. And when this record that I hadn't thought about in kind of 40 years, it kind of, it appeared on the website I'm talking about, on Penguin's website. I kind of, I haven't heard that for years. I kind of pressed it. Oh yeah, that's good. Right, next thing, and do you know what I mean? So there was that kind of, there just wasn't, there was a real you have to really make an effort to track this stuff down. And, you might hear it on John Peel if you were lucky, but other than that, there'd be no way of hearing this stuff. So there is something there, that, as Gary said, and Jemma said, about that kind of, there's investment in kind of tracking this stuff down, getting to hear it, putting the word out, sort of thing. So, yeah. Sorry, that was a long answer as well. Any more? We've probably got time for a couple more. Any more questions or comments or contributions from the floor?
One contribution. This is true anarchy. This is anarchy. This is what anarchy should be. This is love. This is community. This is exactly what it should be. And it's against the system. It's against the oppressor. It's against the controls. That's what this is anarchy.
Hey! In a good way.
In a good way.
literally.
Oh, sorry, I ain't nothing to
That's
see.
all right. There was you there. I just wanted to, I can't remember who it was that said about going on to Leeds and Jemma. The first piece that I produced was for a Leeds magazine, actually Leeds Women's Magazine, and it would be really good, I think, if we could encourage more young people to make physical contributions, I think. Don't know how that would work, but to get like youngsters, because like you say, they're all on their phones, aren't they, scrolling, but to actually contribute something physical and then, you know, give them a voice, because I feel like a lot of young people feel they don't have a voice anymore. There's a lot of people, older people going,
No, exactly, and I suppose the way to do that would be to put the zine somewhere for them to find, and then have them feel like they can contribute if they want to, like it's open for them to do that. I think I remember putting it in the library, hoping that some audience would find it or whatever. And there were a few like younger people at college who were working through like art projects and stuff. They were sending some stuff in, but I mean it's hard to know actually who the people were. I just get emails with random bits of work in, and so I didn't quite
there's
know.
There's a lot of bands which are sort of open, like Lizardmen, Last of the Lizardmen, they have quite a lot of younger followers, so maybe, I don't know, their gigs might be a good place to put some scenes.
No, it's good shout, good ideas.
Yeah, but yeah, of course, yeah. Even younger.
I will say, Lou Williams, who runs the Girls in Library, does do workshops with younger people as well. So that's yeah. Anyone else want to?
I just wanted to say to Jemma with iJunk, I think there's something really special as well about sort of maybe collecting up work that exists, but you've made a platform that might encourage people to make work for it, which is just really special. I think like there'll be work that didn't exist that now does because iJunk is there, and it's people's first time being printed and published, like a college kid leaving and it's the first thing on their CV. I think that's really, really special as well.
Thanks so much, that's really cool to hear. Yeah. I think I didn't even think about that when it started. And yeah, people were saying like, when's the next issue out? I'm gonna write something for it, I'm gonna do something for it. So that's cool, thanks.
Yeah.
That's good observation. Nice. Anyone else?
I think that point is very important as well, because we found out with Bang that people would write things specifically for Bang and produce artwork. You can see some of the cover artwork, etc. Here, so it's still true.
I should say as well, Marie Mel's artwork was made specifically for every single cover, which is really cool as well. So yeah, it's all about encouraging the new stuff, feeling like there is a place for it. Just get it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Go for it. Are we good now?
I'm conscious I keep passing the microphone to the people that are nearest.
You need longer arms. Work on it.
Reese has a question.
Sorry, it was just one more comment. I'll try not to speak too often because I always get bored of the sound of it. The comment also, like I have a little radio show on Ship for the Bombs with Iron Horse. I had a few friends of mine in bands because I've been in and around the metal scene for the best part of sort of 16 years here, sort of in and around Essex, in like Luton and Suffolk and all those sorts of places. And people were going, "Oh my God, I'd love to play on your show." I'm like, fantastic, cool. I'll set up an email. So I set up an email and I went, right, brilliant. Send it to me, and I put up a little graphic and I was like, "You want to get played? Brilliant, send it to me." And then I got about 4 bands. So even when people go, "I really, really want it, make it happen," you go, "I've made it happen," they go, "Well," and you're like, "But you asked for it." So it was just a comment of like, you can make it and hope they'll come. Sometimes they'll come, sometimes they'll wander off and see something else that's shiny. It's just, you know, I guess it's a comment with, when we talk about social media and physical press and all that, that you could make a library of all the cool shit that's going on, and yeah, it's whether or not that person is willing to actually just wander down and go, ooh, a cool thing. That's the hard bit. If anyone's got the answer to that, I mean, you are God.
So like me. No, I haven't got the answer to it, but what I would say is, and it's if you pick up any of the issues that I've brought with me, I say I had about sort of 20 to 40 maybe different musicians in it. And I can only speak at the time I was doing it, everybody wanted promotion. That's what, we had an email address and we had a MySpace account at the time, and that everybody wanted promotion, even people that weren't from Essex, so you had conversations with people, in other counties, and you're like, oh, sorry, we only deal with Essex, and they're like, oh, that's harsh, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but so from my experience, in that time, everybody, we were overrun with stuff, to be honest. So that's my experience, but it might be different now. There are different channels now. There's, it's not. I don't know. I guess I had a lot of people who maybe wanted to get promotion through my fanzine so they could get people at local gigs and stuff like that. But now they could put it on TikTok or they could put it on YouTube, and they'll have a global audience, and it's, things have moved on as it were. But like you say, you can only try and do what you can do in terms of asking people for contributions, and then it's down to them. But certainly for me in the late 2000s, everybody wanted a bit of promotion, good, bad, or otherwise.
Okay, probably got time for one more question or comment or James.
Hi everyone. So thank you for putting this on, by the way. It's been really good. I wonder what the panel have to think about the role of physical media acting as kind of taste makers. By the way, I say that, it wasn't that long ago that if you wanted to learn about a certain genre of music, you'd be reading certain websites, you'd be listening to certain radio shows, you'd be trying to read some reviews that would be in certain magazines, those sorts of things. I'm really worried that that kind of sphere doesn't really exist anymore. Something that's concerning me from an artistic perspective as well is we're sort of creeping towards that dystopian future whereby there won't be any artists or musicians or creatives anymore because AI will just generate anything that fits your exact preference that the algorithm tells you is your preference at that specific moment. And I didn't know if the panel have any feelings about, having these kind of physical zines to highlight actual genuine artists and how maybe that's how we tackle AI in the next sort of couple of decades.
Shall we go? Do you want us to take that first?
Yeah, nice.
Down.
That is a really great thought. That is a really great thought because I remember, it's formative when you're at a certain age. You're looking for what you like and how you feel, and to be fed that as we are at the moment by the algorithm, then are you really finding what you would really like, or is it sort of just being fed to you and you're just having to work with what you're getting? You have to spread your net really wide, and it is hard to do that. Even if you're trying to do it with social media, it's hard. It's really valuable to have something that gives you a little bit of everything, and you can just sort of gravitate to the bits that you prefer. That's why I like when you find something you like, being able to tear it out and stick it on your wall, and then you get that kind of influence for you every day. But I think it's cool, and AI is creepy in terms of the visual generation, because it's only generating stuff based on actual artists' work. So just cut that out and go and find the artists itself.
AI is quite frightening because we don't know what it's going to be yet, really. And we are very impressionable people. Advertisers have known this for a couple of generations now. It'd be really interesting to know what McLuhan would have made of AI, but we won't know that, will we? We are always exposed to whatever medium we are exposed to, and we are influenced by that. We can't help but be influenced by that. Politicians know that. advertisers know that. And yes, having a physical publication, whether it's a small circulation zine, whether it's a podcast, whether it's something going on, something on social media or whatever, we're going to be influenced by it, and there is an element of chance in terms of whether we see it or we don't. A number of people have been influenced by, for instance, picking up a newspaper article that wrapped their fish and chips. You're not allowed to do that these days, but you know, the randomisation of the chance and what influences people, I think, is still going to happen. What you listen to, what you happen to hear on the radio, what you happen to hear on a public broadcast somewhere, we don't know what that's going to be. But AI is going to be interesting. As Graham says, it's based on what people do and what people are doing at the moment, because AI can only pick up what is exactly there now. It can blend it in different ways, and we're just beginning to understand in what ways that can be. But at the moment, it's very difficult to sort of forecast what effect that will have on the way we develop. I have faith that there will still be creativity, and that people will still find new ways of creating in whatever media they're working in.
Ron? Too old to comment, I don't know. No, I mean, I do sort of try and keep abreast of what is going on. I mean, one of the things is sort of the whole sort of sustainability of it is, I mean, they're talking of like 10% of the world's energy will be used if it's going to continue. I mean, it'll go on, but I'm not with it. You can switch it off. I think events like this are important. I think picking up something that somebody has produced is really important. And I think maybe there is an undercurrent whereby people, they say, want experiences, want to learn skills. That still goes on. But is that, you get the feeling that, you know, there's so many things going on in this city as it is now. But it's not advertised. It's like positive news, you know. You don't get the other side, maybe, because in a way the algorithms and these tech systems are sort of just pushing what they want you to hear, what they want you to hear. I mean, it's a very corporate world. It's, you know, it's about making money. Artists do need to make money, but maybe we've just become part-timers and keep on creating. I think it's innate that people will, and just as we need to meet and talk and social, long live the patchwork revolution, so I say. And turn it off sometimes. That's all I can say. It does worry me, but there are times when, I don't know, I wish the grandchildren would switch off, and they do. There's two sides. We see the dark side, mate. Yeah, there you go. I don't know. I won't be around anyway.
I don't know in terms of, I can't comment on whether AI will take over, but I think as long as people are being creative, there's always going to be people there listening to them, and people who want to talk about it and spread the word, whether that's in a printed magazine or whether that's, you know, online. It's, I think for the future
we have the power.
Yeah, very good. We have the power. Yeah.
We can do it.
I was going to say, as long as AI is around, there'll be people to rebel against it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
Okay, that's probably a good place to leave things, I think. I'll just put my own little comment on that, though. Just sort of like this idea of culture eating, you know, this isn't quite AI, but it's sort of culture eating itself. And the people are aware of the kind of the situationists and society of the spectacle and those kind of ideas. But I went to the pictures on Friday evening. I went to see the new John and Yoko film, the But which is a great film, I'd recommend it. But the thing that struck me in the adverts, there was an advert for Coca-Cola, and they used the quote from J.G. Ballard in the quote to promote. And you're just thinking everything just gets consumed, regurgitated. They turn. Recuperation. Everything gets
accommodated.
Yeah, it's sort of like a J.G. Ballard quote in a Coca-Cola advert. Like, that's just weird. What next? Guy Debord will be doing the John Lewis advert at Christmas. Anyway, let's leave. That was just a personal observation. Okay. Thanks everyone. I think we could carry on for ages, but we've kind of got other stuff to do. We've got Ewan, who's got doing a badge making workshop. Am I correct? Yes. Down the back. We've got badge making with Ewan. We've got Adrian doing a bit of poetry for us. We've got Reese doing a bit of poetry for us, and then we've got live music with, we haven't decided on an order yet. Ewan again, Marine Mammal. Marine Mammal's going to be doing a bit of music. Tosca Wild is going to be doing a bit of music. And then we've got Angry doing a bit of music. And then Ewan's going to be doing a little bit of an art auction. So if anyone's got any creative stuff they've brought along with them, their artworks, paintings, murals, anything you've got, talk to Ewan and he'll put it in the auction. Okay. Thanks to the panel. Thanks to Sophie.
Thank you.
Thanks to Ron, Adrian and Jemma. Thank you. I'd also like to say a big thanks to Steve Taylor, who's lent us his PA today. Lars has been doing all the tech stuff, thank you very much. And Steve, who's standing outside, who kind of kindly let us use this venue, and it wouldn't have happened without Steve. And Michaela and Noah as well, for kind of like serving the drinks. So, thank you very much. Thanks everyone.
No, hopefully not. Last time we spoke.
I think it's right. Yeah.